like to begin with an invocation with Bishop Wilkins. Would you please lead us in the invocation?
Eternal God, we come to you saying thank you. God, we thank you for our day's journey. We thank you for giving us strength to do the things that you've called for us to do. And now, God, we ask you to simply watch over us, Lord, to be here in this meeting with us. God, that you would guide us, Lord, as we begin to make decisions, Lord, affecting this community. And God, we just want to thank you for blessing us and taking care of us according to your holy will. Thank you, God. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bishop Wilkins, Peter's Rock. Is that
Yes. Yes.
Baptist Church? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
For the record. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Adams.
Present.
Commissioner Harrelson.
Present.
Commissioner Henderson. Here. Commissioner Henry.
Present.
Commissioner Isom.
Present.
Commissioner Jones.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Seats. Commissioner Singleton.
Present.
Mayor Muhammad.
President.
You have
Is there a motion for the approval of the regular minutes of March 4, 2019? Motion made by Commissioner Harrelson, supported by Commissioner Henderson. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Henderson. Yes. Commissioner Isom.
Yes.
Commissioner Harrelson.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Adams.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Muhammad.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Is there a motion for the approval of special minutes of March 7, 2019?
Make a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Adams, supported by Commissioner Isom. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Isom.
Yes.
Commissioner Harrelson.
Yes.
Commissioner Adams.
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Mayor Muhammad.
Abstain, I was not present.
Motion carried.
Is there a motion for the approval of accounts payable listing?
Motion for.
Motion made by Commissioner Adams,
Support.
supported by Commissioner Harrelson. Discussion. Chair recognizes Commissioner Singleton.
Yes, on page 1 of the cumulative list here is one for Plant Moran was $79.50. Just trying to get a little clarity on that. Then B and Z, second one from the bottom, 21,060. And then at the top of the second page, there's one for Cornerstone Alliance for $2,500.
Does that conclude?
Yes.
Mr. Manager.
Commissioner Singleton, the one that is for Rand, which is $79.50, is for the month of February, I do believe. Services through the end of 2/28/2019. That's for Ms. Hildebrand. You asked about the B and Z 7478. That is a part of the lead service, the lead pilot grant, a payment to B and Z was one of the ones that bid on the work to be done under the grant from the state of Michigan. So that's a payment to them. And the cornerstone is the annual membership fee for the city of Benton Harbor.
Okay, just quick, on the one for Plant Moran, you said through,
The end of February.
what was the beginning now?
No, that's for that month.
Oh,
It's
okay.
for the whole month.
Whole month, okay.
Yes.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Adams.
5 of 5, Southwest Michigan Community, what is it, 10, 5, 35,
You said 5 or 5?
5 of 5. Page 5.
That one is the whole house, is that the one, that's the one we got, Commissioner?
Yeah.
That is for a whole house, the work that's being done on the whole house repair at 566 East Main Street.
5.
Yes, ma'am. Through the community development block there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Adams,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
No.
Commissioner Singleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Isom,
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Seats, accounts payable list,
Yes.
Mayor Muhammad.
Yes.
Motion carried.
This brings us to our citizens' comments and public participation. Each speaker has a maximum of 3 minutes. You can register with the city clerk and she will call you accordingly.
Don Meeks,
I'm Donnie Meeks, I live at 1605 Columbus, Benton Charter Township. I'm also a county commissioner for Benton Charter Township. And I wanted to get and say about this project they're doing over here, about this remodel of this building. I'm one of the contractors in this area, probably tore most of the things down. The City project is over here. I got rid of every last one of those buildings. But those are buildings that needed to be torn down. And I bid on some other buildings, and I've never been a little bidder on tearing other stuff down. This is our history right here, and I would like to see our history saved. My building at 120 Water Street, I remodeled that for the cornerstone in the abandoned. My building on 271 Market Street was in disarray. I totally brought it back, put it on tax roll. So I'm very much interested in keeping Benton Harbor's history here and the tax roll. However we gotta do it. You know what I'm saying? However we gotta do it. But the point that says, I'm in favor of this project. I just want the people to know that I am, or the commissioners. And one thing I want to do, I want to rebuild Benton Harbor. That's what I want to do. And I've made some suggestions, like say I thought I retired in 2013. But I haven't. I've probably been working more now than I ever have. But I'm working for the love of this city right here. And my heart is here and will always be here. My kids are here. My kids, both of my sons, 2 sons, they both in business in Benton Harbor. So let's get Benton Harbor going. And like that feasibility that I did, I'm still working on it. And I'm gonna deliver it to you. That's something great for Benton Harbor. And like I said, I wanna give back. Been good to me. Like, I kinda wish I was back in business because I'm probably going after that 3 million. Okay? Well, that's all I have to say, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Meeks, for your attendance on this evening.
Jay Hilliard?
Good evening, I'm Joyce Hilliard, and I live in the 1300 block of Superior. My concerns are with the roads. I want to know what type of ideas do you all have on fixing Empire by the hill, down the hill, going to Intercare where it floods out, just as well as Paw Paw. And also, I'd like to know about the 1100 block of Broadway, where it's horrible at. It's unsafe. You know, I know you guys aren't gonna pay to fix nobody's cars for coming down through there. Then I would like to thank whoever contacted Indiana Electric Power with the street lights on the bridge on Britain. Is nice and lit. And I appreciate whoever I contacted that will follow through with it. And that's it.
Jerry Edwards?
I'd like to say good evening to you all, to the Honorable Mayor and to the administration. Good afternoon. My name is Jerry Edwards from Benton Harbor, and most of you guys know me. I don't usually come with a lot of negative stuff, but I did receive some news yesterday, Sunday morning, sometime yesterday, and I would like to say behind the news that I received, I think it's about time for us to quit. I almost said something. I think it's time for us to quit playing games. The city is going down. It's not going up. And I did some research. For 31 years, we have been controlled with Benton Harbor. Yesterday morning, I found out why we're still in the same shape, because we're fighting each other. I received some news yesterday that was totally I don't even know how to say it without using the wrong words. But if somebody has a question about my life, it would be better to ask me. I tell you anything. I'm not afraid of any question you got. But to come up with something that I have no part of, ain't in it, ain't never been in it, won't be in it, and I don't even know how you came up with it. It's just downright ridiculous. And I'm trying not to point fingers, because Ben Harbor don't need that no more. 55 seconds. What we need is for us to get together and quit pointing fingers and quit assuming stuff because of gossip, or maybe you assumed, or maybe it looked like it. Whatever it is, don't do it. Ask me. Don't put it out there that I'm this and I'm not. Especially if you don't know it. If you wasn't there in that room to witness it, don't do it. Because the next time I'm pointing fingers, that's how hard it hit me. And y'all know me, I don't do this. But if it come up again, I'm going back to my Robert Taylor upbringing. And for those of you who don't know about Robert Taylor, you better ask somebody. Thank you very much.
Emma Kennard?
Good evening, everyone. I'm here again to, the plant that I had told you all about, I got it this today. I went out to my wholesaler, it's a Shamrock. But as you notice how the leaflets is sort of downward, I found out that it goes to sleep at night. In the morning, it's back up. But St. Patrick's Day was on yesterday. I don't know how many that we have may have Irish blood here. But I'd like to present this to someone that has Irish blood. And I can see a few that I might question that they have a little bit of Irish, and they won't be this color. But however, St. Patrick was took this plant as a shamrock. It has a significance because it has three leaflets. And those three leaflets are signified by the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's what St. Patrick's took the significance of the shamrock plant. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of information about the shamrock. In the morning, it'll be standing up nice and tall and hello. But one thing like to say too today, I sat and I studied myself over and over again, and I thought my life over. And many times that I participate in working with the boards and the committees and all. And I said from now on, until I do some research, I will not sign my name on it. Because I look around and I see Benton Harbor. Over the years that we have been suffering, you can see the suffering around in town. And much money has passed through here. And I don't see the benefits of it. So if I serve on one of the committees or one of the boards, I'm going to make sure that my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed. Do some research. Don't you know that everybody that don't even live in the community is here when money comes in? And when that money is gone, everyone's looking down their nose at Benton Harbor, the condition it is. Oh. So we elect you all to be a voice for us. And when we don't see any evidence of anything getting better, it's a big question. And I said that, well, I won't call his name, but it's one fellow that's in very high position. He lies every time he opens his mouth. And he's got a lot of cousins around. He's got a lot of cousins around. But they're cousins from another uncle. And his name is Tom. So, read through the lines.
James Duncan.
Anyone that tell? I mean, not Irish. Anybody Irish here? Right here. Nobody right here. Okay. You got a little bit of. Okay.
Okay. She couldn't help.
The weather is getting nicer. I heard the lady ask about fixing Broadway. I appreciate that very much. We have a lot of stuff on this agenda. But we never really talk about we talk about what's needed for us. But it takes too long for us to get done what's supposed to be done for us at all times. The weather's been bad, yeah. But second truck, front end problems coming down Broadway. I come here and try to be serious with you guys, but you guys want to laugh and joke. You can end that tonight, because because there's no more joking. Got funny jokes. Go where Pigmeat went. He went on TV. I would like to see more things done for us. When I say us, I'm talking about people like me. People who are not sticking their nose in other people's business, just trying to get things done for the citizens. Everything I see come through here really for somebody else, and we really don't know about it. Just like last week when we had the meeting, it came in for the whatever you want to call it, come in here, they came in with little information. That's what I got out of that meeting that we had. You guys can call the last meeting. I can't even remember what the name of it was. But we just keep talking and keep doing for other people. We laugh and we joke and make innuendos and beat with the gavel and all of that. But when it's time to do something for the citizens, where you at? I've heard a lot of people being on the internet saying different things, and I know that's not a place to talk unless you want to come here and say it. Say it in somebody's face. I like all the jokes to disappear out of here, and let's do something for citizens. We could do something. We could have this filled out with things for citizens, what citizens could benefit from. I'm tired of seeing other people come and get things done, and we get nothing but a gavel or somebody to scream and holler or joke. No joking matters.
I'd like to thank everyone for their participation in the citizens / public participation. At this time, we'd like to declare the public hearing open. It is the establishment of an obsolete property rehabilitation district, which the acronym is OPRA, for property located at 126 Pipestone Street. The applicant at this time can rise to give an opening statement and a summation of the proposal. Yield to Mr. Greg Vaughn, Cornerstone Alliance.
Thank you, Your Honor. Commissioners, we're here this evening with a request to establish a Oprah district in downtown Benton Harbor at 126 Pipestone. The building is better known as the Harbor Center. Excuse me, the property known as the Harbor Center. What we're asking for is for this particular building to be designated as a obsolete property rehabilitation district, whereby we would eventually be requesting a certificate to be issued for that property. The property is going to be hopefully rehabilitated, converted into 14 apartments and 2 commercial spaces. The project is about $2.5 million. There are no, not asking for any other incentives from the city other than the establishment of the district and the Oprah designation. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
I'd like to this time open up for the city commission that may have questions. Chair recognizes Commissioner at Large Mary Alice Adams.
Thank you. My question would be, why does it have to be established as a district?
In order to qualify for the Public Act, a district that's part of the 2-step process that the state mandates. The first is establish the district, and then the second would be to ask for a certificate of exemption from the commission. Then it goes from there to the state treasury.
If I may, Mayor, is that a part of the opportunity zone? And I guess I asked that question because I know that the whole city of Benton Harbor is designated
No, it's not part of our utility zone, no.
Opera
Totally
itself.
separate, yeah.
Okay, so, okay. I guess I was wondering because the whole city
Mhm.
is basically like a is in need of rehabilitation
Absolutely.
as a district.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Chair recognizes the 4th Ward, which just happens to be in your ward, Commissioner Harrelson.
Thank you, Your Honorable Mayor. I just like to say, I personally doesn't want to see any more apartments in the city of Benton Harbor. This is a city, not a resident area. I would like to see businesses, a hotel, grocery store, a restaurant. I would like to see something that'll benefit the citizen more than apartment. It's not a resident area, it's a city. That's how I feel. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem Dwayne Seaton.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Just want to read something that I received the other day, and I hope you can speak to it. It says, Michael, well, you did it, kid. You put a bright light on the issues, and now there are going to be 2 hearings and a broad review of the situation. I believe article is appropriate result of the good hard questioning of the facts. If it wasn't for you, this would have all been swept under the carpet, and we really wouldn't be able to make progress. Please read this article closely as to what the opportunity is here. For the record, it is not good enough to just allow the piranha to tear off the flesh of Cornerstone. Some real questions of concerns, procedures, and economic policy need to be asked. This should be viewed as an opportunity, not just a chance to sling mud on Cornerstone or anybody else. Here are some of the thought starters for both the opera and the raw situation. I'm not making a judgment call. If the shoe was on my foot, I would ask the question of everything and then see where it sticks. Number 1, is it appropriate to have both opera and broad incentives in place? What does the total package look like? Number 2, is it appropriate to have other state incentive piled on as well? Does the city care? It might not and possibly shouldn't. If there are other incentives in place, statewide or otherwise, frankly, the city needs to be leveraged and stretch its incentive capacity, blowing through a local revolving loan fund or not leveraging state incentives would not be wise. That said, if someone else, the state, can do heavy lifting, then we should let them keep our powder dry. Opera. What economic benefit is to be obtained? Number 4, I encourage all those to understand how the opera works and why. As a question, what is taxable rate of 3 different tax-paying numbers that will be generated? Number 5, what is the assessed values or established values for the certificate of the frozen value? I think Michael Hoy can speak to the rest of this. If you can come and tell them.
That's out of order.
I apologize. Well, I'll read it.
We're out of time.
I apologize. Let me read it there.
Public comment.
I'll read it there.
This is public comment.
All right, I'll read it there. If Oprah double dipping with other tax relief that is out there, is Oprah trading dollars as counterbalance for other tax, as income tax or property tax being preempted by the income tax? How does the library feel about getting squeezed out of the millage without a say in the matter? What is the CA doing for the library? If I'm granting an Oprah, I will be asking to see all the documents with Cressery, the entire deal beginning to end. The opera, what is the economic benefit? Deriving from transactions, are there any side deals? What does the CA gain at the back end of the deal? When they say CA, I think he's talking about Cornerstone Lines. If there's an equity kicker, is there a reversion clause? Does Cornerstone get paid to promote or any other commission, development fee, or any incentive for pulling all this together? Do they have any financial interest in the transaction after sold? Do they have an option? Why are the funds being distributed in advance of the work? Almost never the case for performance. There's much more. I email it to you.
Yeah, that would probably be
Yeah,
the appropriate way to handle that.
Answer. Thank you.
Mr. Vine.
Well, I don't know how I can answer all those things without knowing exactly what they are. I didn't quite understand all of them, so it might be more appropriate if you would email them to me. Is there one or two in there you want to specifically pull out? I'm more than happy to try to address
Yeah,
them.
about the double dipping. I think that was the main one that I seen that kind of concerned me when it came across my desk. Let me read that one again for you. Is it appropriate to have both Oprah and BRA incentives in place? What does the total package look like? The other one is Oprah double dipping with any other tax relief that is out there?
I don't think it's part of double dipping. Oprah is a state regulated incentive that's in place. So it's not double dipping. You're asking for an incentive from the city of Benton Harbor. You're asking for an incentive from the state of Michigan and anybody else who can incentivize a project. Incentives are in place to get a project developed. So if you want to call it double dipping, you can, but that's not actually what it is. As far as the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, I assume that's what he's referring to when you say Brown. That is a program also to help establish and encourage redevelopment of communities. We did receive a $130,000 Brownfield Redevelopment Authority grant to demolish the building, and other for demolition of the building and any other appropriate expenses that are related to that particular property. We have those dollars. They're in the bank. We haven't spent them. Those dollars, we're holding those out specifically because if this project doesn't go, we're going to tear the building down. That's bottom line. So that's what the $130,000 is sitting there for. If the project moves forward, then we have a request already in with the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority coordinator or a consultant to transfer those dollars to the new development party, and they would use those dollars for, again, appropriate reasons under the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Act.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I toured the building. I do know it's a historical building. It's been there for decades. Currently, what are you paying in taxes on that property?
I cannot tell you. I defer to the assessor. She might have a better idea. I think it's somewhere around $25,000 a year.
I'm sorry, I don't
Oh,
have that
okay.
information. I'm not the treasurer. I don't.
Mr. Manager, would you know?
No, that would come out of the finance department as to what the actual payment is. The assessor can only speak to the actual assessed value on it.
What is the assessed value?
For 2018, the assessed value was $392,300.
And the tax bill.
$392,300.
So currently you are paying taxes
Definitely paying taxes, yes.
on this building right here.
We pay taxes on every property we own.
So I toured the building and I probably should have went to now called Spectrum right afterward due to the toxins and just the horrific condition of the building. The Oprah would freeze, so it's not like you're asking to pay no taxes.
That's correct.
The Oprah would allow for you to pay what you're currently paying, correct?
Yeah.
And then after the Oprah expires, then based upon the assessed value of what's rehabilitated, then you would pay at that value.
Exactly.
Along with the tenants and then what goes beyond, underneath it, will you be pulling permits?
Yeah, of course, you have to pull all the city permits. You would have to do all the proper hookups and pay for those hookups. And as you said before, the tenants will be paying their portion of the taxes, primarily the city income tax. So, yeah, it's not a matter of the city forgiving taxes totally. That will not happen. But what it does, it allows the developer to have some working, more maneuverability with the project as far as trying to put it together.
So,
It's a very slim
right,
project.
right. And I know you, in speaking with you, you searched, you looked, you didn't get a lot of bite from developers.
We were literally within weeks of demolishing the building, yes.
So if the council said, we don't want it, it's tore down, then what does that do to the assessed value?
If the building's torn down, then the assessed value would go down to just the land value. which
Like
would
a
be-
vacant lot,
Yes, sir.
which would cost the city revenue.
Correct.
So I think that, you know, the bottom line is, does the city want to have the property rehabilitated to continue to get the tax base that we already are getting, and have the property developed, and in 5 years or whatever the council sets the Oprah sunset at, would begin to collect the revenue as the project is completed, which, what possibly would the city get in revenue once the project is completed in its fullness? What would you say the assessed value would be?
I would have to, at this point, because it doesn't exist, it's hard to value something that's not there. But,
Just hypothetically.
I would have to ask, you know, what they would be putting into it, which I believe he said 2 to 3 million. So, you know, the value could be not more than that, but certainly, you know, I'm sorry, it's really hard to value a building that doesn't exist yet. You know, it's probably, I probably won't land at 3 million. I can tell you that usually it costs more to renovate a building like this than when it's all said and done what the actual market value of that building is.
Okay.
It's going to cost a lot of money to renovate it, but certainly it would be, you know,
More than
extremely
what we
high,
have now.
extremely higher than it is right now. And, you know, once the abatements wear off after that initial period, then they would be paying full tax on that full value of the renovated building.
Thank you.
Put you in a tax file, we don't like Harvard. Put it out for us. Right. And don't wanna make me talk about the feedback.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, Honorable Mayor, the questions I read was not of mine, it was of somebody who was concerned with the city. If you put $3 million in that building, it's probably gonna take about $1 billion just to get it back structural wise together, and with the hole in the roof and the cleanup and removal of toxins, asbestos, whatever you might have in the building, you never know. And to do it, my only question becomes this: is this deal a guarantee? If we do provide the Oprah, we provide everything that needs to happen, or are we setting the rules to bargain? Is there an actual developer who says, if this happens, then we're gonna do it? Or are we setting the stage and it still might not happen? The building's been there for years. I've been throughout that building. It's been owned by numerous people. Numerous people try to do different art designs and everything else. I would hope that all the buildings become habitable or to the benefit of the Benton Harbor the way it was probably in the 60s or the 50s, where you can go downtown Benton Harbor made downtown St. Joe look like a homeless shelter. So I concur. It did go through committee. We did answer tons of questions. We were there quite a length of time. Even we had a cross-examination during our meeting. But I would concur that if nobody has anything better to put down there, then bird in the hand is better than 1, 2, or 3 in the bush. So I do support if it's gonna happen, but if it's not gonna happen, then are we setting the stage for something else?
Mr. Vaughn, is the developer here?
The developer's here, and they will be hopefully speaking during the actual next public hearing. They can answer those questions more specifically. But again, I can tell you that, I can't guarantee you. They may be willing to guarantee you, but this is just one of several steps we've got to go through. We have to get state approvals also. And quite frankly, if you approve it and it doesn't get done, you haven't lost anything. Other than you have a vacant lot there. So.
Chair recognizes the 3rd Ward Commissioner Henry.
I'd just like to know, when you speak of district, is that building, that property is the start and the end of that district, or does it go further over into downtown?
There are 2 property tax ID numbers for that one single building. That's the only district that building encompasses, 2 property ID numbers, which is at 126 Pipestone.
So that's actually 2 properties.
It's, as far as the county assessment is, the building itself is a property, the wall on the building that is another property for some reason. I can't explain that, but those are 2 tax ID numbers.
Connecting the next building?
No, it's not connecting. It's next door to the next building. Those 2 buildings aren't connected. They're 2 buildings adjoining each other, but they're not connected.
They're not connected, but they have a wall.
Yes, 2 walls actually.
2 walls. So one wall has a number and the building has the other number.
That's correct.
And the next question I asked, if we're looking at 2018 or 2019 value, taxable value for this property, for the taxes, are we looking at 2018 or are we looking at 2019 property taxes?
City Assessor.
I spoke with the state of Michigan about this, and they said that because if this goes through, the certificate that would be issued as of December 30th of 2019. So it would actually freeze the 2019 values to go into effect for 2020.
Well, taxable value in 2019 is $30,800, and the taxable value for 2018 was $392,300. Well, it's a big difference in taxes, and $30,000 for taxable value, and what they'll be paying over how many years that we give them, 1 to 12 years. Not very much. So I think that if we do give them, open up this district, I think we really need to look closely at what's going to be there, the market back, how much it's going to cost, who's going to be there in the working of it. It's a lot of questions we need to ask. We should not just say we're going to give them carte blanche and not have an understanding of what we're doing. So there's a lot of questions. I don't mind open the district, but then when we go into the actual meat of it, and the developer can give us pertinent information as to what they're going to do, how much market value, what's going to happen. They could tell us they're even the schedule for the renter, what's going to be going on. So more questions to be asked and answered.
Who would like like to say, I spoke with a couple restaurant owners and other developers, and, you know, about relocating in Benton Harbor. One of the concerns was traffic, as it relates to household income, as well as downtown. And their question to me was, who's going to patronize my business? If I move to Benton Harbor, where are the people that are going to come in and buy in my store? So I think that to the commissioner who talked about benefit, you know, people benefit. You know, people shop, people spend their money where they want, by the way. But I think that, you know, when people look at population and people look at cities, they look at housing, they look at income, and many other variety of things. So I think that it behooves and it's important for us when developers look at the city of Benton Harbor, they want to know who's going to be patronizing my business. Chair recognizes Commissioner Adams.
Thank you. A couple more things, Mr. Vaughn. I think for clarity for the city residents, because they've always wondered why Cornerstone is not serving or servicing some type of initiative for jobs or more development within the community, the inner city. And I was unaware that we were paying $2,500 annually for membership with Cornerstone. There's no way that I can sit here and say that I don't support the continued growth after okaying a $500 million development. Growth is going to happen, and it looks better than it did. I'll be the first to attest to that. I saw the beautiful apartments with some of the developments throughout the Arts District. They came through the Brownfield. As a member, I toured the beautiful. And eventually, and it's not going to be tomorrow or next year, that the rest of the taxes go up within the community. But again, the citizens need to know where the jobs for once these beautiful apartments or lofts or what have you are created for. I know that we are going to have to do something. We can't keep complaining about the roads and the potholes and not do something to build on a tax base. It's going to have to happen. I'm very aware with all the tables that I've set around for the past 20 years down here, that children that have left a lot of communities and went out into the rural areas are moving back into their inner cities and moving downtown, and some of them look like me. It's not something that I would be discriminatory about, but I have a question about the Brownfield Funds. And those funds are specifically designed to help developers come into communities and redevelopment and reinvest within their property and capture some of their tax dollars back. But since that was not the case with this building, when those funds, if they are returned, will they return with interest, or why can't it be returned and Brownfield can draw their own interest?
Well, as I said previously, those dollars are set aside to demolish the building if we are not able to develop the building. Okay. The dollars will be spent if we're able to develop the building, or if the developer agrees to develop the building. Those dollars will be spent on eligible brownfield projects within that building, which is primarily demolition of the interior, the exterior facade, and some other things of that nature. If we don't demolish the building and the developer isn't there, we'll gladly give the brownfield their dollars back. But you know, we have a signed agreement with the Brownfield Authority that outlines what we do with those dollars and what the terms are and conditions of use of those dollars are.
Okay,
The city
Just
assessor was gonna speak
future
to.
reference, I wasn't finished, Honorable Mayor. For future reference, can you just say something to this community to help them to understand and to actually buy into this, and those that are yet to come, to reassure them? They get tired, and I hear this from my people in the community. Something to the effect of turning on the radio or the evening news or midday news and hearing Cornerstone creating some jobs in Benton Harbor like they do in St. Joe
Commissioner,
or Stevensville. Thank
the
you.
public hearing, thank you, has to be
Thank
focused
you.
on the Oprah. Mrs. Story, you were gonna speak to some of the relatives of the assessed value.
Right, I wanted to address Commissioner Henry's comments about the 2019 value and bring to light the fact that when the reassessment company came through, they didn't go inside this building and they assessed it as if it was a fully functioning building, and that's where that high value came from. Cornerstone Alliance did pay the taxes on that extremely high inflated value for the year because it wasn't deemed to be a clerical error. So, you know, it couldn't be adjusted. So they didn't have to pay that high tax. But last year, over the summer, Cornerstone did invite me to take a tour of the building so that I could see for myself the condition of it and then value it going forward appropriately to where it should be. If you look on the record card in front of you, you can see that in the years past, that 2018 is the only year that's 10 times the amount that it ever has been.
Chair recognizes Commissioner at Large, Ron Singleton.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Just to the chair. She did answer the taxable value question that I had. Back to the, I think it was 130,000 that the Brownfield gave for demolition. When you got the money for demolition, was it strictly for demolition, or because I hear you saying now that if you get if the developer go ahead and do the project, that the demolition money is going to be used to fix, to go into the project too?
Should I answer?
Yes, sir.
The agreement, I have to have a copy of it in my hand here. And it reads, the Cornerstone Line agrees to accept the targeted contribution and commits to use the funds for demolition of the building and other eligible expenses. Eligible expenses on the Brownfield Act include anything from mold remediation, asbestos remediation, interior demolition, exterior demolition. There's a long laundry list of things you can use those dollars for. The $130,000, by the way, was not going to cover the cost of demolition. That was just a portion of the cost. They were just trying to help us with this particular project. And as I said at our meeting a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we made a commitment to Mayor Hall and the Brownfield Authority that we would do whatever we can do to try to save that property if we could. And we had a number of developers and builders look at the building, and they all walked away. And as I said earlier, we were within weeks of signing a contract to demolish the building. We asked the people at Cressy Real Estate Development to take another look at the building. They did so, and it's been a year, but we're to a point now where we're not there, but we're getting closer to a point where we can hopefully be able to announce that that building is going to be rehabbed.
Last question, the tax freeze is for how many years now? Is that a number would be set by the commission, or is that just once?
We're asking for a 12-year abatement or a 12-year agreement. And again, the numbers are based on what the developer's gonna need in order to, get this project up and operational. The dollars that he or they would save in taxes would basically offset some of the cost of, not much, but some of the cost of the actual redevelopment of the property.
Chair recognizes Commissioner at Large Mary Alice Adams.
Thank you. 12 years? Tax abatement,
It's not an abatement, it's a freeze.
a freeze
Yes.
on the taxes, period. So there will be nothing for the developer for the Brownfield to repay the developer because there's no taxes being collected.
There will be taxes collected every year.
Oh, I missed something.
It just freezes the taxes at a level, so they won't be increasing over the
Oh,
next 12
okay,
years.
okay, thank you,
Thank you.
that's helpful.
With that being said, we'd like to,
There's one brief question on I do apologize. I would just ask a question, Honorable Mayor. After we do this, nobody go to the tax tribunal? Because we've done this, and then people have went to the tax tribunal, and by law, when you receive Brownfield assistance, you're not supposed to go to the tax tribunal. But we've been battling that fine line, and I would just hope if we make this kind of commitment, that somebody won't backdoor and go to the tax tribunal and say that the assessed value will be too high when it's time to pay. Thank you, Honorable Mayor.
The developer can address that question, but you know, if you've got I don't know why you would even think about going for a tribunal when you're set locked in at a point at the current appraised value.
thank you, Mr. Vine, for your answers and presentation. This portion of the first public hearing is closed. Oh, pardon me. This brings us to our citizens' comments.
Citizens' comments right now. Speak or get skipped on.
Citizens on the come.
Oh. You just stay up there.
Jerry Edwards. With the developers doing the public hearing, I have been to quite a few public hearings. How much percentage of the public hearings input do you actually take into account, as opposed to just having a public hearing? One of my concerns is basically I know that the city has policy 25%, Benton Harbor residents employment, if I'm not mistaken.
That's federal money.
It's federal money. So outside of that, how much are the developers in a percentage? How much have they calculated to be residents' employment? Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the engineers, but I know once you start on redeveloping a building, which I have been a part of, you got to do a whole lot of clean up, tear down, and it doesn't take a degree to cut down. So my question is, from the get, right out the door, there should be some residents of Benton Harbor. So my concern is just basically making sure that this is not a window dressing thing. Saying you will, but don't. Thank you.
Good
Good evening, my name is Santana. I had a question, and this again may be something that may be obvious for everyone, but my question is, if this happens, is there anything that we could do to say the contracts go to a % of people that live in Benton Harbor, or some of the construction jobs go to residents of the city of Benton Harbor? That would help. I know it's not permanent because of course the project will be completed, but that would help short term give jobs to the community.
My question is that, and I know that you have to have a plan in place to even bring this forward. Once the building is ready to be occupied, I'd like to know on the basis of the average apartment, what would be the rent on the average for the apartments? And what I'm seeing is that these apartments are going to be so high, they're not really put there for the residents of Benton Harbor, because we can't afford the price of those apartments that's there. They're actually for a lot of the, what would I say, the Whirlpool executives and all of those people. So that even changes our voting status, even here in Benton Harbor. So like I say, dot your I's and cross your T's.
Sorry, to come back really quick. So I've lived in a lot of cities throughout the country. And one thing I have seen done, like there's a place called Camden, New Jersey, it's an economically disadvantaged community. They have had developments like this come in, but they've said a certain % of the apartments had to go to people in the community. And that may be through subsidizing. I don't have the details, but that does happen in some cities.
We're discussing 12 years. That's a long time for us not to have what the citizens need. Cut that down to a year. Thank you.
My name is Kenneth Ankley. I've worked in the city of Benton Harbor since my after-school days in 1972. My family's business was Bramble Supply. The building I still own, I've improved that building 10 years ago. Very proud of that. Recently, I acquired the Sheffield building on 132 Pipestone, so I would be the next door neighbor of this proposed improvement. The notion of being next to an improved building with neighbors is very appealing to me. To be next to another green open space, not so much. I hope that you will recognize this as a tremendous opportunity for the city to bring life back into downtown. We've made great progress over the last 10 to 15 years, and I see this as a great opportunity to extend that and attract new development, new business, new people, new residents, new tax base. So thank you.
You know, he made a good point. He said new people and new residents. See, he solved it all in a nutshell. So what he told you is what everybody see and know. This is what you call a form of gentrification, because they fixing up the downtown area, even with this old commercial development that they want to do and get all of these approvals of certification. But the end game is what you have to really look at when you go to approve it under the OPRA law, Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act. And when you talk about bringing in such a development that they're trying to bring in, first and foremost, if you approve it tonight, it's a done deal because they're gonna have the certificates and things of this nature. But as we said, we have to have the end game. You have to have everything that's gonna be done, dotted I's and crossed T's. Because if you don't, at the end of the ride, all the stuff that you beat and approve now, later you can't come back and fix. And so the devil is always in the details. Once you approve it now, then by the time they give you that final paperwork as to what it's going to look like, what it's going to be in there, you can't go back and change it because they tell you, you approved it already. And see, this is what we've always been up against. I've never been against change, but change which is an illusion of inclusion. And this has been the change that he talked about that we've been going over for the last 15 years. You know, yes, we have a beautiful downtown, but does it serve the people that stay in the city of Benton Harbor? It serves everybody else that come from outside areas, outside people, you know, Chicago, people from everywhere coming, like he say, spend money downtown. But what investment has been made in the inner city over the past 10 years? We got houses and property that's being torn down. They've never come up with a plan to redevelop streets that and houses that have been torn down. We also know that the Prairie Group owns most of the area from Calvin Britton School all the way back in most of those lots. And what the intention is to redevelop it, but it won't be redeveloped with the intent of having the residents who stay in the community back into the community. You know, so we have to be very careful when we go to, as we say, making deals. You know, that's just like what he's spoken with the tax tribunal. They talk about the property that they develop is worth less than what it was when it was developed. Make that make sense. And you talk about playing fair. They don't play fair. I mean, it's just keeping it real. And this is what it's all about. Sometimes you have to wake up and deal with reality. Because right now, if we get caught up in this show, the reality is going out the window. They're making moves so quick it just hurts you. And they come in here under the intent, they give you a lot of content and it's a con. Trust me.
May I say something? Well, I'm gonna put it like this. 12 years of nothing is better than, 12 years of nothing, how much is that? Nothing. 12 years of something is something. And plus we got a possibility. What are we gonna do if we tear down? You don't know, something might not never get put there. We don't know that. Now we got something that's gonna be there. And you know, at that point, like, why don't we welcome other residents to Ben Harbor? And I said just the poor. Why don't we offer other ones? Why don't we offer something for the middle? Bring the middle. You know what, we're gonna do something against the poor? We've done a whole lot for the poor. Let's do something for the people in the middle. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Abisaya Muhammad. I live in 453 Cherry Street, Benton Harbor, Michigan. I am the First Lady of Benton Harbor, Michigan, but I am also a resident. And I have something to say this evening to the commission. My question is, when are we as a community going to stop getting crumbs from others? And why are we the only group of people who wait to sweep up and clean up when we can qualify ourselves for the positions that we want? And whatever expertise there is, we are qualified to do and be at the table and create our own business. And I will use myself as an example of a single mother on one income from a hard-working husband with 6 children, and 7 is the adult in college.
That's you, girl.
And I decided to take something that I was given by my mother as a child, which was the talent of braiding hair, and create a business for myself. I tried to go to the jobs around here. Some say yes, some say no, but I decided with the degree to say I wanted to create something for myself. So now, currently in downtown, where we are now, I have a 2-year budding business, but no one can tell me
when I can come and when I cannot come, and I don't have to beg for the crumbs. So I guess my question or suggestion is allow the developers to develop and make yourself a developer instead of the sweeper and the cleaner. So step up in our thinking and demand and create something better for ourselves. And I'll leave it this. I am a Muslim, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us as black people to get up and do something for yourselves or you will be out of luck. Thank you.
Good evening, Michael Hoy. I'm going to speak on behalf of the Benton Harbor Historical Preservation Society organization. This property is dear to our organization. It's one of the oldest pieces of Benton Harbor. It's actually where Benton Harbor actually started, at the corner of Pipestone and Main. This building needs to be saved. However, whoever, we have the developers here, we have Cornerstone here, we have the commission here. It's time for all of us to work together. Work through the details, work through all the questions, work through all whatever needs to get worked through, and come to an agreement for the betterment of Benton Harbor. This is the first time I've seen in a long time we have everybody, opponent and components, in the same room. I've said it many times, there's a lot of bright, smart people in this room. They really are. They have the best interest of Benton Harbor. And excuse me, but I was fortunate enough to go to my brother's keeper in Chicago when Barack Obama spoke about gentrification. He spoke about greenification. Those who have the green. Okay? We all have the green to make this project work for the city of Benton Harbor. Let's all come together. I sent out an email with a lot of questions that I gathered up from doing my homework. It's time for everybody to do their homework and come to the table for this deal to work. Everybody's in the room. Everybody can progress with this. There's a piece here for everybody. Thank you.
This will be the last comment.
Man, I made it that on time. We have to really think about what we're doing here, what we're answering to, without no information on paper. This is another one of these meetings where we have lack of information. If you guys don't have the information, I said if you guys don't have the information, what makes you think we should do this as citizens? Can't come in with all the information. We have, assessor has questions that she can't answer, but she can one day soon. But until then, we're gonna say, yeah, I wanna see some progress too. But I really don't care to see progress if my people is not part of the process. And there's nothing racial about that. I believe in God. I believe He's going to help us, regardless of what anybody does here. But you guys have a key that citizens really don't have. You guys can answer, say yeah to all of it or anything when every citizen hasn't been contacted or even made to be aware, because the newspaper costs too much. I should say that again. The newspaper costs too much. And if you're watching TV, you'll see the weather more than you'll see anything concerning Benton Harbor or the citizens. While we laughing and grinning and joking and acting like we everything, we are to me. And it is a struggle when you have a billion-dollar company buying everything and people having to leave for whatever reason or another. We have billions of reasons why we have to leave here. And most of them is to the county jail, to the penitentiary, to the graveyard. Look at all the people that have fought for us, that have actually came here and fought for us, died out. And what do we get? We get jokes. We don't, hey, another joke, another piece of paper not concerning the citizens. It's not going to be tolerated.
Thank you. This first part of the public hearing is closed. I'd like to open the second public hearing. Approval of an application for an obsolete property rehabilitation district over exemption certificate pursuant to Act 146 of 2000 as amended for 126 Pipestone Street. I'd like the developer to please rise and give your opening statement and a summation of the project.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Chris Fielding. I'm the CEO of Cressy Commercial Real Estate. We're a commercial real estate firm that operates from Indianapolis to Grand Rapids and Ohio to Illinois. Not only do we do commercial real estate, we're commercial real estate investors and also management of commercial real estate also. For those of you who don't recognize, I spent 12 years working in Benton Harbor. One of the reasons why my company is here is that they listened. I believe this is a sleepy town, always has been a sleepy town. The developers have not paid attention to. So the fact that we are willing to invest on Main Street, corner of Main and Pipestone, is a testament to my experience that I had in this city for 12 years, working with the youth of this community, creating programs in this community, and I do believe in this community. So when I got the call from Rob Cleveland at Cornerstone, this is a project that I brought to the partners that I work for to say this is a project that we should look at. There's an opportunity here. Is it a gigantic return? Absolutely it's not. This is about as thin as it gets as a project goes. But it's worth doing. We are a company who does projects that are worth doing. We don't flip, we don't turn and burn projects, come to a community, make our money and get out. We hold our properties, we believe in our properties, we're proud of what we own. Our company's been around for 70 years. So our reputation means everything to us. And I will tell you, with my experience here, my company is the type of developer you want in this community. So what we're proposing is to take the 20,000 square foot building next door, which now consists of dead rats and cat carcasses, probably about 17 dumpsters full of mold, and turn it into 14 apartments and 2 commercial spaces on the ground floor, fronting Pipestone and Main Street. This is absolutely a risk. The Oprah grant is one of those, it's a tax freeze, it's a tax deferral. So what that means is that you're giving us the opportunity to get our feet on the ground and get our legs underneath us before the project folds, right? So our estimate is it will take us 2 to 3 years just to get the tenants into the building to the point where you're actually able to stabilize the building, and we're not sure how long it will take us to get a commercial tenant. We're very excited about the fact that the Houndstooth has moved into the Sheffield behind us. Trust me, we've been watching Ken's project to say, how long is that commercial space going to sit there empty and potentially be broken into, vandalized, which happens in every single city. That is not unique to Benton Harbor. An empty space attracts bored teenagers. So we're happy that it's filled, but that means no guarantee that ours will fill it. We're expecting to invest somewhere between $2.5 and $3 million in this project altogether. That is a lot of money to recoup out of 14 apartments and 2 little commercial spaces. So it is absolutely necessary to have the tax freeze, not the tax abatement, in order to even have a bank willing to talk to us about our pro forma when we're showing flat taxes for 10 to 12 years. That's what they're looking for. It makes the project less risky for them. And that's our job as a developer, and your job as the council is to help us make the bank feel like this is less of a risk so that they're willing to invest their money and our money in downtown Benton Harbor. Second to that, I know this has come up many times, For those of you who may not know, I actually started the Youth Build program in this community. I ran the Youth Build program in this community for 5 years. I've already reached out to them to say, I want this to be a Youth Build project. I want my former students on this project. I want to see them learn from my construction company. We own our own construction company. So the thought that we would hire additional individuals, we may need help, and if we do, we look to all people to help this project. But from the standpoint of wanting my old students involved in the program involved in this project, it's an absolute must. And we've already discussed it. I've already reached out to Caleb and Todd Gustafson, and they're more than interested in the project. Beyond that, I guess I'm happy to answer any questions you may have of me.
Chair recognizes the First Ward Commissioner, Commissioner Anderson.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for doing this project. I have a question. I have an older child that lives in Sterling, and she was looking to get into a higher type of apartment. She wanted to live closer to downtown Washington, D.C. And I know they offer a lottery program in some of their higher end condos. Is this something that you would consider? I know you may not be able to do the 3%, but offering a sort of a lottery program for one after you establish your commercial residents that will pay the base rent, but doing at least one subsidized property in that one. But in that case, they offered a lottery system for people who made a certain amount but could not afford the very expensive rent, and so it was done in a way that it was just random. But even thinking about the city of Benton Harbor, how you could at least create one that subsidized unit that could be a little bit smaller, but something that could offer residents an opportunity to be a part of one of those spaces. So again, thank you for taking on this project. Like you said, it is a risk for any business to open up. It's a risk. And for people who open up businesses in our community or whether there were others, there's risk that you take on as a owner and operator of a business. So thank you for taking on this in our city and helping to build up and to draw more businesses into our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's your official title if you could sit with the company?
I'm the Chief Executive Officer.
What is your name?
Chris Fielding. Fielding.
Please, to the question, Commissioner Anderson.
I've certainly not heard of a lottery system like that in our region anyway. I know it does happen in the big cities. It is, I will be honest with you and tell you it is not currently in our pro forma. I will tell you what our focus has been is filling those commercial spaces. Now, what we have in our pro forma for that commercial space is $5 a square foot. So we're keeping it low enough that if there are individuals out there who would like to open a business which creates jobs and brings a tax base and attracts residents to the downtown, that's why we've kept that so low. Typical space like that in any of the regions we serve would be $15 to $22 triple net. So that's a ridiculously low price for a space that we will make first class.
Chair recognizes Commissioner at Large Adams.
Thank you. Hi. Wondering where I knew you from.
I just lost a lot of hair.
Oh, it's okay, it's okay. I guess I'm not sure if, well, my comprehensive level was different than everybody else's, but from my understanding, the children that work at Youthville that you would love to have go in there and do a lot of that work, do they make enough or will they in the future to be able to afford one?
An apartment?
Yeah.
I would hope so. We've had a lot of success with that program. I can tell you,
Okay.
two of my former students, I still have a lot of them on social media, have moved on to fabulous careers.
It's a good thing, and it's continually going and hopefully growing, and you being a contractor now, if you don't mind me asking, what type of contractor?
Construction.
It's construction solely?
Correct. So we own a part of our company. We have 5 divisions of our company.
Okay.
We do commercial brokerage, we do commercial management,
Okay.
construction, development, and a virtual solutions division.
So we can learn quite
Absolutely.
a few skills in the mindset and midst of working on a daily basis, just
Alongside.
communication while they work.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Commissioner at Large Isom.
Thank you, Mayor. To take a risk like this, you have to have a vision. So you see potential in Benton Harbor changing in years, 5 to 10 years to come? You see potential growth?
Absolutely.
Do you-
When I started here in Benton Harbor in 2000, the Arts District was empty. I remember when the most exciting thing that happened in Benton Harbor is when the Phoenix Cafe was opened by Tony McGee and Elizabeth Frost. And now look at the Arts District. You have bars, you have restaurants, you have festivals, and you have people gathering there. The need to bring people and assimilate different cultures, different races in one area is not going to happen by one project. That's a mindset. So I'm not going to tell you that my project is going to change that. What it's going to do is it's going to make sure that in your community, the worst thing you can do, I always tell people who don't own Benton Harbor, Main and Pipestone is Main and Main, right? You currently have 2 empty parcels at Main and Main. The last thing you want is a 3rd empty parcel at Main and Main. What you want is retail space and residence. In commercial real estate, it's the proverbial chicken and the egg, right? Nobody can ever explain who comes first. Does retail follow rooftops, or does rooftops follow retail? And I can tell you, doing economic development for 3.5 years in South Bend, retailers will, first question they will ask you in any business, as you had mentioned, tell me how many people live in that 1 mile area. How many people can walk to my store? And if you can't answer that question with a high enough number, they're not interested in opening up a business. So certainly the more people you can get to live in your downtown, the more retail will come, the more commercial, the more office, and the more taxes.
Chair recognizes Commissioner at Large Singleton.
Thank you. You said it would take about 2 to 3 years, probably, for the project.
1 year.
1 year? Okay.
Can't afford construction interest for any more than 1 year.
Okay. And then you said, what did the 2 to 3 come? That's getting it
So,
certified, or?
correct. That's our, you ramp up. So there's no way that we're gonna have, that many tenants on day one. You start one at a time, moving them into the building, so we expect that that's about how long it'll take to fill all the space in the building.
Then, so construction-wise, you'll be complete in 1 year? Or?
That's our goal.
Okay. So the youth build workers, about how many you think you might need on that project?
I don't know how much the project has changed, the program has changed since I left. Typically they rotate. They're Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, so we would have them the entire length of the program. I've already reached out to ask them if they'd be able to help with demolition, but their cohort's not starting until May, and our goal is to get demolition moving faster than that. So certainly they would come in on the tail end of demolition and then be there for the reconstruction process, which is really where they're going to learn something, especially in a historic building.
So you said you was the youth build director at one time?
I wrote the first youth build grant in Benton Harbor, and then I ran it for 4 years.
Now, on some of your other projects, did you have to use any of those youth build people?
This is our first project in Benton Harbor, but most of the projects that we did as a offshoot of youth build were all done by youth build students or Bridge Academy students. So we started the deconstruction program here. It's when the NSP money was in Benton Harbor. We took over the lawn and maintenance contract from the county, and the students were doing that as a way of putting money in their pocket and keeping them off the streets. So we tried to create micro enterprises.
Chair recognizes the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the elephants in the room when it comes to anything downtown is parking. With 14 tenants and a commercial space, where the parking come from? Are you going to partner with Cornerstone Alliance? Well, that's a parking lot in the back, or is there any? I mean, are you going to make one floor for parking, or what are we going to do to counteract that parking? Because downtown has always seemed to be handicapped by parking.
All downtowns are. We've made a deal arrangement with Cornerstone. Cornerstone's going to put in an extended parking lot with their money, and then we're going to pay them over the course of the next 12 to 15 years an annual fee for every single apartment out of our rent to help offset the cost of that parking lot.
How big a parking lot are we looking at?
That's a question you'd have to ask Cornerstone, but they're guaranteeing us a spot for every single apartment.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes Third Ward Commissioner Juanita Henry.
Can you give me a kind of what prices your one bedroom and studios are going to be?
So typically the apartments in Benton Harbor are ranging from $1,350 to $1,900. Cornerstone specifically asked us to create lower end units that have the same finishes. That was part of our deal. So our apartments are now ranging from $1,000 to $1,300 to our largest, which is, I think our largest apartment's 1,300 square feet. So we're trying to make them as affordable as possible, but still having high amenities, and new construction is just expensive.
Yes,
Hold on one second, please, Mayor.
chair, you have the floor.
Thank you. Now, youth bill. Will youth bill give their students a stipend? Am I correct?
I can't speak to that, but that's the way the program has
Used to
operated
be.
for years. I'm hoping that it still does.
That should cut down construction costs quite a bit,
It actually increases construction costs.
because
I have a team of 17 carpenters and skilled tradesmen that have been working for 20 to 30 years. The expectation when you have students on a job is that you're going to slow down and take the time to teach them something. So a job that they could typically do in a day may take a day and a half to 2 days. And when I'm paying their daily wage, that's a commitment that we make to the project and to the community that slows the project down and actually costs more, not less.
Now, at the taxable value, and it's gonna be frozen at $30,000 a year, for the taxable value of this property. And the state of Michigan has the authority to reduce or to approve reducing half of the school's operating and state education taxes with this project. And they have a period that will not exceed over 6 years. I see you heard you say 10 to 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Could you do 6 years at a locked-in $30,000 a year, and then progressively go up?
So the challenge there isn't what the taxes will be at 12, 13, or 15 years out. The challenge that we have as developers in any community is getting the bank to loan us the money. And it's not that we're not credit worthy, it's that they look at the operating expenses and say, you don't make enough money to cover the debt service, and if you don't, we don't want the building back. So this is a requirement from the bank. If we're gonna take out a 15-year loan, the maximum you can get is 12 years. They're on the hook for 3 years of that debt, but they're only on the hook at the end of the project, which means we've had a good track record up to that point. So it's not necessarily about if the taxes go up to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 at the 12th year. The key here is getting the project done on day one and getting the interest from the bank in order to put their money in the project. That's the hang up. That's really where the Oprah comes into play, is removing the risk from the financing industry that is risk averse. Developers are used to it. Banks don't like it.
I just wanted our colleagues to hear about the school as well. I'm just having a problem with what's being offered. $1,000 to $1,300 a month for 14 units over a 10-year period. That's a great opportunity to get some of your money back. Let alone, I know for a fact, I hear Cornerstone talking about this all the time, you build, they will come. And to prove it, they don't the apartments downtown don't stay empty long. They have their occupants. So I'm just having a problem that at the shape that the Benton Harbor is, and we need money, that if you really want to help the city, then you'll cut back on some of those years. Take 10 years and find some way to, and I know that we do have a contract for employing our residents, and it's not federal money that you're talking about, because this is city money that we're talking about. You might be talking credit, or abatements, but it's still city money. So I think that should come in play, that you do hire some qualified Benton Harbor residents or contractors who will hire Benton Harbor residents, or there's so many ways that you can empower us to help our residents, and I think that we should just make sure that some of those things are put in place. But I'd say I would vote if we can lower it to 10 years and put some of those other mechanism in it to hire Benton Harbor residents, and I just think it's a great idea, but we have to have real partners and real people that's really going to put some really life-changing things in place for Benton Harbor residents. Because right now, we have agreed that priorities have changed in Benton Harbor, and it's all about the residents. So if we're really mean that, then we have to put things in place to let that happen.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you. The company that's gonna do this, or the building, would that be like some type of LLC or something? Would it be like a local?
The actual owner of the building?
Yes.
The owner would be an LLC established as an extension of our company, with the ownership of our company owning the LLC.
So they'll be subject to the city income tax too.
I believe we all are.
Yep. Okay. Then so the profits, they make off the building, that's city income tax. Then the retail people, they'll be renting the space. I'm sure I know that'd be city income tax too on that. So it's kind of like shifting it around. We kind of focusing on the property taxes, but there's, I think the building will generate some other taxes too. It's my opinion, you gotta spend some, give up something to get some. So far, it sounds good with with the youth bill people working. That's one of the biggest things I think some of the folks was passionate about, as far as the projects coming in and nobody getting to work. So you kind of answered some of that. I guess the thing would be negotiating the 12 years or something. So I can see the project working.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Fielding. I do believe that relationships build communities. I do know, in speaking with Cornerstone Alliance, that you were the only developer that decided to say, we'll take this project on, and the fact that your connection, given that you, I won't say got your start in Benton Harbor, but Benton Harbor has been good to you. So for you to influence and encourage Cressy, is that correct?
Correct.
To come back to where you started to invest. And we're not talking about, I wouldn't say it's a mom and pop project by any means, but we're not talking about a $15, $20, $30 million high-rise development that we see in bigger cities. So I think the other end of it is salvaging a very historic and prominent corner in our city and bringing it back to life, which will take time. I do know that, for those who are in the rental business, rental turnaround is at all-time high. Tenants come and go, so that, as you mentioned, risk. And I do understand in terms of banks, because when the bank is on the hook, they want some collateral. Otherwise, they're not loaning the money. And you're not printing the money, you're going to get the money and bringing it back to our city. So, I would hope that we be business-minded and look at not just the short term, but the long term, and I heard somebody say end game, and how this is going to impact the city of Benton Harbor beyond us sitting in these seats. Lastly, many young professionals from Benton Harbor that come home have a problem with housing. I spoke with an attorney whose business is in Benton Harbor, but she told me it's very difficult for her to find housing that would complement where she is in her professional career. So, I think it is a good thing, and I appreciate Cressy Development Realty getting involved with the project, and thank you for coming back home.
Thank you.
I'd like to open up for public comment.
Everything sounded great, but I still didn't hear anything said about jobs for anybody else other than the company that you build. There's a lot of people that can actually do a lot of these jobs, demolition. We got a labor union, Local 355 for laborers. I never hear you guys talk about them, but I know they've been here. I don't hear us talking about ways that we can be a part of anything. I hear you guys talking about how nice it sounds to, or what it can benefit other people from other places. The youth bill was a great idea. I didn't see much progress for a lot of black people with the youth bill. But I would like to see them consider us a lot more. I like to see everybody consider us a lot more than what's happening. I like to see you guys consider us a lot more than what you do. Thank you. Sure. Make sure labor unions can get involved with you.
Michael Hoy again. I'm still speaking on behalf of the Benton Harbor Historical Preservation Society. This is a really epic moment for all of us to come together and possibly save this piece of historical property. But I think it's bigger than that. I think it's a watershed moment for all of us to come together with everybody in the room, because this is going to send a signal that Benton Harbor is turning their corner. Benton Harbor is going to become the gem of Southwest Michigan. It'd be great if this comes together, that I can just see it on the cover of Crane's magazine, that the city of Benton Harbor is finally working together as one and coming together with all parties. So, there's no big secret that there's been a love-hate relationship between the city of Benton Harbor and Cornerstone Alliance. But I think we have everybody at the table now to do the best interest in this project. We have a lot of smart people, again, I said, that are looking at this to come together. This could just be the catalyst of what could come to the city of Benton Harbor. So again, thank you everybody, and let's work together for the historical district and for the betterment of Benton Harbor.
Thank you. This public hearing, if there are no other residents or persons to rise, then it is declared officially closed. This brings us to the agenda of business. Are there any items that should be separated from the consent calendar? The chair recognizes Commissioner Adams.
Adopt a resolution to establish an obsolete property rehabilitation district. Resolution approving an obsolete property rehabilitation acceptance certificate application. Adopt a resolution approving the implementation of recommendation from the Michigan Economic Development to receive redevelopment ready communities. Resolution approving the reappointment of Brownfield Authority Board member Emma Hall, and adopt a resolution to approve the legislative committee person Santana Warren.
Chair recognizes Second Ward Commissioner C.F. Jones.
Might like to remove, adopt, and an ordinance amendment to Chapter 11 building and building regulations. This is a draft. It's not a finished product listed. Should be removed.
Just for clarity, Commissioner Jones, you said it was a draft?
Yeah, draft posted up. It's not a finished product.
Can you speak to that, Mr. Manager?
I would ask Commissioner Jones to clarify that, because what you see, what you have in front of you shows you what's currently there, what the proposed is going to be with lines drawn through it, and then basically a resolution to publish it for the public to get knowledge of it.
That's why it's in draft form.
Okay, so we should be looking at two different, as opposed to just having that one just up by itself.
I can't hear him.
If so, it should be listing two different ones so we can oppose them side by side as far as having it listed in one document, looking at this as a plain draft.
Mr. Manager.
Commissioner Jones, it is side by side. You see 11-1 as it's currently written, and right below it, 11-1 with the proposed changes and that which would be stricken from that document, from that section. And then in section 2, the 11-2, it's what's currently there, and then below it, what would be proposed would be the new language that would be there.
What I'm saying is that we should have two different documents, not one document in the same, so we can look at both documents to compare, not within the one document. Through the chair. That's what I meant.
Mr. Manager.
So you said two documents, it's one section, two sections.
No. I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying is this. You should have both of them posted. not showing the draft within one document. That's what I was stating. I understand what you're saying, but you have other commissioners that might need to look at both forms, long form, as opposed to just that one, where the edits are being made and showing it in opposition of the new.
Does any commissioner have a problem recognizing what is current and what is being proposed? Commissioner Henderson.
I'd just like to say, I chair this committee, and in our committee, we presented both forms because we wanted people to see what the language was. So, and I don't think that's what we wanted people to see what the language was and what was stricken out of what we were proposing to incorporate in new language. And so that's why that resolution looks the way that it does, because it has the stricken language in there so that the committee can see what language was stricken out. And I think most of the commissioners were here at the legislative committee last week.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I understand what Commissioner Jones is talking about, because I think it's something that we have to be careful of. And I was at the meeting, and I do understand that to have two separate documents, I would think would be just best practice. Because it's easy to take a document and present it one way, and when you see it again, it's not what you agreed upon. And I think a lot of that happened in the times past with the overall agreement of Harbor Shores. So just to be on the safe side.
Well, that's why it has to be published in the
Two
newspaper
documents.
for 10 days. So we'll be able to look at what currently is on this paper, where it is, what's proposed, if passed, and then it has to be posted in the newspaper for 10 days. And the language must be the same as what's in the city resolution, which is recorded in the clerk's office. So, Chair recognizes Commissioner Singleton.
We're being asked tonight to approve the final document, or we're being asked?
Well, we haven't even got an opportunity to even consider the document because Commissioner Jones has said it should be removed for the stated reasons.
Yeah, so that's my question. So,
Well, if it's removed, then we can't even discuss it.
okay.
Chair recognizes the Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, Honorable Mayor, with all due respect, I think that if, for the sake of time, why don't we just separate it, then what's on the agenda, then we move on the item? Because if it's not separated, then we're gonna keep going back and forth, and it's the same thing you do when you have a discussion over an item on the agenda. So, I think that the best thing we can do right now is just separate it. Then if there's discussion or it's the consent of the council to table, then we can move forward, and for the sake of time for the presidents and the commission. Thank you, Honorable Mayor. So I move that we separate this item.
Support.
So if there are no other items that should be separate, I yield to the city manager.
On the consent calendar items, the first item is repealing and replacement of Chapter 41, Traffic and Motor Vehicles, Article 2, Uniform Code. Replacement of the language in City of Ben Harbor's Code of Ordinance, Chapter 41, Article 2, Uniform Traffic Code, Sections 41-16, 41-17, 41-20, and the repealing of Section 41-18. Recommendation that Mayor Muhammad and the Ben Harbor City Commission approve the repealing and replacing of the current language in Sections 41-16, 41-17, and 41-20. Additionally, Mayor Muhammad and the Ben Harbor City Commission approve repealing of Section 41-18. These modifications will become effective Upon publication and proper notice given to the general public. Adopt a resolution to approve the appointment of Jerry Edwards to the Downtown Development Authority. Recommendations of the Benton City Commission to appoint Jerry Edwards to the Downtown Development Authority for a 3-year term expiring, on March 18, 2022. Next on the consent calendar is appointment to the Cemetery Board, Mr. Jerry Edwards. The Benton City Commission, recommendations of the Benton City Commission appoint Mr. Jerry Edwards to the Cemetery Board for a 5-year term ending on March 18, 2024. Those are your consent calendar items for your consideration.
Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar items? Motion made by Commissioner Adams and is supported by Commissioner Henderson. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Adams?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Seats?
Yeah.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Harrelson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Isam?
Yes.
Mayor Muhammad?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Mr. Manager.
First separated item is amendment to the City of Benton Harbor's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 11, Building and Building Regulations, Article 1, Section 11-1 and 11-2. The recommendation is Mayor Muhammad and the Benton Harbor City Commission approves the amendments to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 11, Article 1, Section 11-1 and 11-2, effective upon publication and proper notice given to the general public.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Seats, supported by Commissioner Henderson. Discussion. Chair recognizes Commissioner at Large Ron Singleton.
I guess the question was asked in the last conversation. We're being asked to approve, this is the final document.
Mr. Manager.
Commissioner, what you're being asked to do is to, as it sits right now, current language in the ordinance identifies specific additions of various codes, okay? What we're asking, or what's being asked or proposed is that, number one, we adopt the current versions of those, and then secondly, that it lists the actual documents and it says adopts the current published editions and future published editions of the following codes, which shall be reviewed and adopted with each new edition, and it lists the codes out. So as it currently stands right now, if there is a something that is obsolete in the 2009 editions of all these, or if it's something new that's in there, we as a community cannot basically enforce it or not enforce it because we have adopted the 2009 editions and that's what we have. So if there is any modifications to these documents, we cannot enact them because we're saying we're only adopting the 2009 edition, which at this time is 10 years old.
And then you said this would go for any future, so we'd never have to come back.
It would, as it says, the city hereby adopts the current published editions and any future published editions of the following codes, which shall be reviewed and adopted with each new edition. So there was comment made at the committee meeting that instead of just approving them as they are, you would review them before you enact them. So that was what the language was. That's what the language is in the document. Yeah.
Thank you.
And bringing back the original document. Then we're gonna vote on it.
Can I just, Mr. Mayor, if you don't
Mr.
mind,
Manager.
what original document?
The one you want us to prove.
You've already approved them.
Oh, then
The documents are already in place. What we're saying is we want to now be able to adopt the updated versions of the documents that we already adopted. That's what this is asking for.
So basically, we're trying to come up to the modern time as it relates to the 2019 edition of, as opposed to in 2019 using a flip phone. No, pardon me. I don't mean to offend any flip phone users, pardon me. No pun intended. Madam Clerk, call it.
One more question.
Commissioner Henry.
Chair. During our meeting, we asked a very serious question, and I want that answer to be public and out so the citizens can hear it, about civil or criminal evident part of these amendments. And I would like for our city manager to say what criminal or civil charges can be let on citizens or business owners through this amendment.
Mr. Manager.
These are civil matters. These are not criminal matters related to property maintenance, mechanical code. You won't go to jail and be fined $500 or 90 days in jail for a property maintenance violation. As it sits right now, you go to community court if it gets to that point. What happens is typically when there is a citation issue, you have an opportunity to abate it. If there is no abatement, you would go to community court, which at most of the time, the judge then gives you some more time to abate the problem. These codes are not made to be punitive. These codes are made to basically have compliance. So they're not criminal.
Thank you.
Commissioner Adams.
Just for clarity, I think it's coming back to me now, and I think that was our Officer Clark that made mention that those little small infractions can be paid here in the city. I don't know. Was I at the right meeting?
No.
Oh, okay. I was wishful thinking.
Point out.
I was wishful thinking, I'm sorry.
I call for the question.
Commissioner Henderson? Yes. Commissioner Isom?
Yes.
Commissioner Harrelson?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Adams?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Speaks?
Yes.
Mayor Muhammad?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next is a resolution to approve an obsolete property rehabilitation exemption. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Resolution to establish an obsolete property rehabilitation district. The recommendation reads, now therefore be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Benton Harbor that the following described parcels of land situated in the City of Benton Harbor, County of Berrien, State of Michigan, to it. Lot 1, Block 23, original plat of the Village of Brunson Harbor, according to the plat thereof, recorded in Library 1 of Plats, page 1 of Berrien County Records, tax parcel numbers 1151 0340 0205 03-2 and 1151 0340 0206 012, being hereby established as an obsolete property rehabilitation district pursuant to provisions of PA 146 of 2000 to be known as the Benton Harbor Flats Obsolete Property Rehabilitation District, and there's a blank number because it has not been given. So that is the resolution and the recommendation.
Is there a motion for the approval?
Motion approved.
Motion made by Commissioner Adams, and it is supported by Commissioner Henderson. Chair recognizes Commissioner Adams.
Where was this property at again?
This is at 126 Pipestone.
Okay,
See-
okay.
See that building right
Yes,
there?
yes. I've been looking at it for 60 years. This used to be something else. But we just had a public hearing, and I thought that there were 2 public hearings prior to a resolution. No, there was, back to back?
Yes, Commissioner.
I seriously have a problem when we go talking about districts, because I'm reminded of how we lost our water to Kojic, with the way the property overrides and cuts and connects back on. This right here reminds me of when I was out campaigning, how the district of the map has just totally changed, and this is going on a national level of redistricting.
This is not.
Now, if somebody got a problem with being in Ben Harbor, then maybe Ben Harbor ain't for you. If you just have to, just on paper, have to be a district or something, no. I must be somewhere totally.
Chair recognizes the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Again, for the second time. We went through this on Planning and Economic Development night. We just answered every question had anything to do with district or redistricting. You see, Commissioner must have missed it. We had 2 public hearings tonight. It's 8:08. 9:08, I'm sorry. I forgot we gotta spring forward. Hopefully we can spring forward on this resolution and, thank you, Honorable Mayor, but we did talk about this, and we just went through this with a long public hearing. So I will call for the question.
Support.
Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Seats,
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
So.
Commissioner Isa,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams.
Knows I don't wanna hold up progress. I missed this meeting.
Question is being, is
Questions.
yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Harrelson,
No.
Commissioner Singleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Mayor Muhammad.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next is a resolution to approve an obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate application pursuant to PA 146 of 2000 as amended. Now therefore be resolved by the City Commission of the City of Ben Harbor, be and hereby is granted an obsolete property rehabilitation exemption for real property excluding land located in Ben Harbor Flats Obsolete Property Rehabilitation District at 126 Pipestone for a period of 12 years beginning December 31st, 2019 and ending December 30th, 2031 pursuant to the provisions of PA 146 of 2000 as amended. That is the item for your consideration, Your Honor.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Adams, supported by Commissioner Henderson.
See, I separated these items. I asked for these items to be separated because they didn't look familiar to me because I missed my meeting. And I'm sure it was something very important that overlapped it. But I'm looking at this resolution and the other one, it seems like something is going before the other. I'm just put it on this one.
I call for the question.
Man.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Henry.
All of the public hearing, all of the conversation, developer didn't promise us anything other than what was written This document was written even before the public hearing.
Wow.
And nothing's been addressed. This document is what we're gonna vote on. It had none of the ideas that we had included in this. There was no confirmation that we're gonna change our ways and do things a little differently in Benton Harbor. Yeah, I know why you're confused, because this document was written before the public hearing. No matter what we said in public hearing, this document is still here, just the way, so I understand, Commissioner, but we did not get anything other than what was presented. Nothing changed, and I'm having a problem with it. Nothing changed. All of we talked about, nothing is in this resolution that says we talked about anything. I'm having a problem with it. Nothing's changed. Guys, come on.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Singleton.
Based on what I heard from the public hearings, only issue I had was the 12 years, and then I heard one commissioner say they could go with everything except if they said 10. But I'm looking at probably the difference of the 2 years. Is that really significant? So that's the only question that I have. So.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Adams.
See, I thought it was just me, but it wasn't me. It's something that just isn't right here. Because I do my homework, I research, and I read. I may be a slow one, but I'm not that slow. Something is really out of order here, and I just feel it in my spirit. That there's no way that these resolutions should be following a public hearing. And I want to rescind a motion to the last vote.
That vote is already.
I'd like to change my vote on the last resolution. Because there's nothing anywhere that I've read that has anything that we have discussed as a body in the form of entering into anything. I mean, that's communication. And I'm not just going to go along to get along. I'm sorry. I'm not the chief.
Call for the question.
Commissioner Henry,
No.
Commissioner Singleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Adams,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Seats,
Yeah.
Commissioner Harrelson,
No.
Commissioner Isa,
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
No.
Mayor Muhammad.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next resolution is a resolution for the implementation of recommendations from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation to receive redevelopment-ready community certification for the city of Benton Harbor. Recommendation is that Mayor Muhammad and the Benton Harbor City Commission authorizes the implementation of the MBDC recommendations necessary to receive redevelopment-ready community certification.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Adams, supported by Commissioner Isa. Discussion. Chair recognizes Commissioner Adams.
Okay. This is the meeting I missed. If you could fill us in a little bit more, City Manager Watson, really appreciate it.
Mr. Manager?
The state of Michigan, through the MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, has offered a free certification and technical assistance to the city of Benton Harbor and other communities around the state of Michigan to basically make you redevelopment ready. So what they're doing is, Commissioner, if you look in the body of the resolution, we in 2016 passed a resolution of support for participation in this program. It's voluntary, it's no cost. That promotes effective redevelopment strategies through a set of best practices, program measures, and then certifies communities that integrate transparency, predictability, and efficiency in their daily development practices. The IRC certification is a formal recognition that a community has a vision for the future and the fundamental practices in place to get there. And so what we have done, like I said, the commission passed a resolution in 2016 to participate. There was a meeting that, I want to say the Plan Economic Development Committee meeting, where the MEDC came down and presented the baseline assessment, and that was provided in, I do believe, in with the packet that went out on Friday, so that you could see what the things that they're talking about, and basically it's updating the master plan, updating your zoning. That's and they offer the assistance from the state to help us get that done.
Through the chair, so that means that it's not gonna cost us?
It is at no cost to the city of Benton Harbor.
Okay, well, I was just asking because we allocated some money for that, the master plan.
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry.
Right, this is not for the master
Okay,
plan.
okay.
I call for the question.
Commissioner Jones?
No.
Commissioner Harrelson?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Isom?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Seats?
Yeah.
Commissioner Adams?
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Mayor Muhammad?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next is adopt a resolution to approve the reappointment of Emma Hall to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board of Directors. Recommendation that the Benton Harbor City Commission reappoint Ms. Emma Hall to the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board of Directors for a 3-year term ending on March 18, 2022.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Adams and it is supported by Commissioner Harrelson. Discussion. Chair recognizes Commissioner Adams.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. I was confused to even see this on the agenda because I was at the meeting and Ms. Hall was not present. And she hasn't been to any of the meetings in quite some time. Her appointment expired mid last year. And it's part of the procedure to show up and give cause as to why you would like to. Everybody else has. And we've had others that has shown interest in setting on the authority. And I think that it's time to go in the drawer and look at some more applications. So for that purpose, I will not be supporting it.
Well, I did speak with former Mayor Emma Hall, and she, not to get into any personal, but she had surgery. She's in rehabilitation and recovery, but she assured me that she is vibrant and ready to continue to serve on a board that she has been on and a community that she has been in for a number of years. But she did say that she was in recovery. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. I just would say, we probably need to call for this question too. Ms. Emma Hall served on that board for a number of years, and 20 years, thank you. And I think that she brings a wealth of knowledge, easy to communicate, easy to talk to, and knows what to do. We don't have to retrain her as long as she's willing to serve and she has the mental capability, the capacity, or whatever. You know, I think that I support it. We don't have too many people that are coming out the woodworks to do these kind of committees. And I appreciate the opportunity for her continuing serving. Thank you, Honorable Mayor.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Singleton.
Mayor, yeah, I'm just, it'd been nice to, if she had a letter or something to indicate that, because I know the clerk been sending out letters for folks who have not been showing up to the committee meetings and basically holding that spot. There are some citizens that are waiting to serve, so it would have been nice to get some type of something from her, state that she was wanting to do that.
Me talking to her is not enough.
Mm-mm.
When the last time you talked to her?
This week.
Can't bring them up from the road.
I mean, her track record speaks for itself. A lot of what we're looking at is from her work, sacrifice, not just as a mayor, but also on that board. So she's expressed a willingness to serve again, then what is the problem? She sits as the signature of the board currently.
Nobody else gets it.
So I took the prerogative as the mayor to reappoint per your confirmation. Chair recognizes Commissioner Henry.
Thank you. We have to be fair across the board. We can't give anybody any special treatment. I've seen citizens come not show up and not get appointed. Now,
With hip surgery?
I'm not talking about your personal problems. I'm talking about just in general. I've seen people not get appointed to the board that they wanted to be on because they didn't show up for the process. And Mayor, she might have spoke to you, but she may not have. That's your understanding. That's not this body's understanding. That's not the committee's understanding. When they looked out there and didn't see her, they didn't have anything to say about it because the standard procedure is for us not to take them on to the body if they didn't show up for committee meetings. We gotta be fair across the board. We cannot give certain people special treatment.
Call for the vote.
Commissioner Harrelson?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
No.
Commissioner Singleton?
No.
Commissioner Isa?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Seats?
Yes.
Commissioner Adams?
No.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Mayor Muhammad?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Last separated item is the appointment to, a resolution to approve the appointment of Santana Warren to the Legislative Committee, and the recommendation is that the Benton Harbor City Commission appoint Ms. Santana Warren to the Legislative Committee as a citizen representative for a 2-year term expiring on March 18th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Adams, supported by Commissioner Henderson. Is there discussion?
Yes.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Adams.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. And thank you, Ms. Warren, for your willingness to come home into your community and run it. And I pray that that's what you do in the future. You came right in and got involved, and I think that it's very unfortunate, though, that you were not given the opportunity to have your Brownfield application looked over. But I want to welcome you home.
Chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem.
Welcome back. I think I went to school a couple days with you. And it's an awesome thing to see you coming back. I don't barter positions. I don't check over applications. I don't make any promises. But I know whatever board you're on, you're going to do 100% the best you can to help the betterment of the community. Please understand that, you're only one person. You can only do what one person can do. Give it all you got, and it'll work out for you in the end. Welcome back to the
Chair recognizes Commissioner Henry.
This lady showed up. she's got another application in the drawer. And I believe that the chair is taking upon himself again to say no. Cherry picking our committees. That's another reason we have to be fair across the board. We cannot give people, we just can't do it. It's just, it looks bad. It feels bad. It stinks.
Is this relative to her appointment?
Yes.
Could you please keep it professional and make it relative to what's before us?
It still stinks. And as long as you have a dictator that's running and do not have to answer to anyone, we're gonna have this problem.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the young lady too for coming back and have a willingness to serve, and hope you don't, get discouraged, and keep on, serving, and as those other positions that you may want to serve on become available, I hope you still be interested, because sooner or later the clock gonna deal with all who's sitting, even these seats here, and so just glad to have you back in this community and have a willingness to serve.
For the second time, the chair recognizes Commissioner Adams.
It's the third. Thank you, Uncle Mayor. But I would like to not only thank Ms. Warren again for this, and she definitely has my support, but I'd like to make a motion, since we need 9 people in the Brownfield, to appoint her to that as well.
Commissioner, all due respect, and
I'd like to make a motion.
You don't have the powers to appoint.
You're not the only one by the majority of the vote.
No.
I second that motion.
By the majority of this board, this body,
You don't have the powers to appoint.
by the
By
majority of this
Now, no
body.
majority. The city charter states that the mayor of this city has the powers to appoint. The city commission has the power to confirm. By
She
charter.
has an application in
Now,
there.
if you want to change the charter, you go out and take that to the people.
I'm going to do that,
Thank you.
since you think it's okay.
And your
for you to
motion
change
is
it.
denied
That's okay.
per city charter.
So that's
I'd like to call
that's
for a
not
question.
quite true, is it? Ask the attorney if that's quite true.
Commissioner Henderson? Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Seats?
Wow.
Yes.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yes.
Commissioner Adams?
Most definitely.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Mayor Muhammad?
Yes. This brings us to staff comments. I'd like to recognize the Director of Public Safety.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Commission, residents. Real quick, you got last week's report. Coming out of our committee, we've had an extensive conversation in reference to illegal dumping around the city. As you know, it is an absolute abominable problem that we have throughout. We have a proliferation of tires, beds, and mattresses. Excuse me. So from that committee, our marching orders were to continue on as far as enforcement. We're trying to detect, deter, and get people prosecuted. Since Wednesday, we have moved forward with several things that we discussed. I'm in contact with the state of Michigan. The DEQ investigator will be here, meet me next week to go and look at some of sites that we suspect are generating some of the tires. We got some resources and some help coming from them. So we got some other things I won't go into, but this is a significant problem. We're going to be asking the citizens to help us. We're going to go door to door in the super affected areas with a dumping contact number, tip line. So I think people are fed up with the dumping. Our town looks absolutely atrocious. We want to clean it up. We're committed to it, and that's the marching orders we got from our planning committee, and we're going to move forward with that 100%.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the Planning Economic Development Director.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Commission, citizens. The Community and Economic Development Department has successfully completed the requirements as a staff for the redevelopment ready communities through MEDC. That was effective last week. We continue to plow through with our HUD projects and our CDBG work, and we'll be meeting this week with HUD at the Federal Building in Detroit, in addition to attending the Michigan Community Development Association's Technical Assistance Conference this week as well. We are trudging forward with our projects and our trainings.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the City Assessor, Ms. Stewart.
Thank you. I just want to remind you that March Board of Review is this week. If you'd like an appointment to speak to the Board of Review regarding your 2019 assessment, you can call the Assessor's Office 927-8441 for an appointment.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to tell the Commission that I'm working with the City Manager, trying to finalize the Farmers Market project, and hopefully that will be concluded soon.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the City Clerk, Deputy Clerk.
I have notice of a nominating petition deadline. Please be advised that the deadline for filing nominating petitions for the August 6th, 2019 primary election is April 23rd, 2019 at 4 p.m. Nominating petitions will be accepted in the office of the City Clerk here at City Hall. There's one term for Mayor, 4-year term, Commissioner at Large, 2 4-year terms, First Ward Commissioner, 1 4-year term, Second Ward Commissioner, 1 4-year term. 25 signatures are required for certification. Currently, the City of Benton Harbor has 8,510 registered voters. However, the last census conducted in 2010 reported that there were 10,038 residents in the city, with 25% of those under the age of 18. The City Clerk's office is working vigorously to maintain an accurate qualified voter registration list. In the upcoming weeks, we will do a mass mailing of voter ID cards to all registrants in the city. The voter ID cards will simply have your name, registered address, and polling location for all elections. The purpose of this general mailing is for address verifications. Michigan Election Law Act 116 of 1954 and the National Voter Registration Act of 1993 allows for the clerk to conduct a program to remove names of registered voters who are no longer qualified to vote in the city from the registration records of that city. If any of the voter ID cards are returned to the office or notices are sent out, we will correct them accordingly. Cancellation countdowns will start for reliable information received for registrants that have moved outside of the city for which they are registered. If no response has been received from the voter after the passage of 2 even-year November general elections, which is November 2020 and November 2022, the voter registration record will be canceled. For those registrants who receive their voter ID cards and there are no information needed, you will not have to correct or update the form. We are taking appropriate measures to ensure the integrity of the voting process, to include but not limited to the maintenance of an accurate voter registration list. We thank you in advance for your patience and understanding during this time.
Thank you. Chair will recognize for commission comments Commissioner Singleton.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a pretty good public safety committee meeting Wednesday. Made some headway with the trash and started to see some of the effectiveness of some of the things that we discussed and put in place. You'll be seeing some more. I thank the chief for bringing that to a priority. The other thing, we got a update on the issues that we had with the DEQ. City manager explained that, and that through that conversation, we learned that there was that we entered into a consent agreement with the DEQ to make sure that we get some of those things done. The only problem we had through that conversation is that the question was asked is should we have a resolution, before you enter into the agreement. And we discovered that the attorney did recommend that we do a resolution. So basically, we're trying to figure out the proper way to correct that situation. One of the discussions was that we go back and do a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter us into that agreement. So that will be consistent with the charter. The clerk, she's not here today, but we're trying to figure out how we correct that. But I think the question was, well, one of the answers was we need to check with the attorneys. I don't know if you have anything to say on that.
In my discussions with the DEQ as well as with the city attorney, it was not a requirement for a vote. The mayor in section 3.9, one is administrative, it's not legislative. But there are certain documents, state and federal, that the mayor has the authority by city charter as the executive head of the city to sign.
Now, this was a legal, binding us to a legal document. So,
That is correct.
So the 3.2 would say that we should act by resolution. Can you?
Containing as it relates to ordinance or the approval of contracts as it relates to dollar amount, etc. But the city attorney can speak to that.
It's been quite some time since I authored a document, Your Honor, but I said that there was the option of going by resolution, and ultimately I conceded that the mayor could sign the consent agreement on behalf of the city of Benton Harbor.
I think what concerned me was when you said it was best that it was best that you did it, that it was a resolution. Then you did say something about a timeline. You said that since they needed it by the end of the month, probably wasn't enough time. So
Right, he said it may have been best. However,
may have been best.
in quotes, given the timeline, the sensitivity of the document, and the fact that the DEQ, the state was not requiring a vote from the council. So therefore, in expedience and in time, it was signed. Otherwise, the city could have been fined up to $500 per day. So we were, it wasn't a requirement anyhow, so I acted in the best interest of the city by city charter.
Is that under chapter
So
3?
the 20.
That's a section 3.9 of the city charter. It is commission comments, but just to clear the air. Thank you.
I want to finish it. So it was like we had 20 days to get that in. So
It is, it's commission, I spoke to you about
Yeah,
it, January 29th.
so we had,
I sent you the document by email.
reading that document.
Point
it
of
was
order.
Ridiculous.
I gave you,
Can you finish your comment?
Point of order.
we was talking about a document from the left.
Point of order, this is not question and answer.
It's not a question.
Point of order.
All this information you have,
I'm
and you
just
talk
giving,
with this.
I'm giving a comment, I'm not questioning, so, I mean, that's up to whoever to figure it out. I'm just giving a comment of what we discussed in the committee meeting. So, and it was a concern that if it was done right, it was done right. If it wasn't, how do we correct it? That's, so, I mean, folks taking offense, kind of make me think that it could have been done wrong, but, I'm just stating what we had in the committee meeting.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Isom.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. I'd like to thank the citizens coming out tonight. I thank Chief McGinnis, commend them on the illegal dumping. The pictures was a wake-up call at the public safety meeting, and just show you how bad the city is. Need to be cleaned up, so, but he gave us the word that he caught somebody, arrested them for illegal dumping already, so it's just it's beginning. We're gonna clean the city up. We're gonna need everybody's participation. See something suspicious, take pictures, call, or do something, because some people just nasty. They just throw trash anywhere. Cops, it just don't make sense. But to them, it makes sense. So I like to thank Ms. Kennard for giving out her plants, good comments. Men like plants too, Ms. Kennard.
What did I do?
I want to thank Cornerstone Alliance for finding ways and means to restore downtown Ben Harbor. The building could have been torn down, but they found a way to find a developer to keep the building. And I hope everything go well, that we can have residents down there, commercial, and there'll be a spinoff. There'll be other buildings and businesses come off from that. And I'm glad to see they closed Paw Paw. Paw Paw was rough. I don't know whoever drove down Paw Paw, but it was rough. I'm glad we closed it for the benefit of people's cars, and just, you can't go fast down Paw Paw. We couldn't go. But it's a good thing to do, and maybe in the future we can, with this income tax money, we can fix them streets. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to echo the sentiments of what Commissioner Isom just said, we did close Paw Paw Avenue in an attempt to, number one, thwart any potential damage to anybody's vehicle. As we work on getting a solution for that low spot on Paw Paw, there was a question, and I think she left, regarding the bridge on Britain. That was actually Commissioner Isom who brought that to the attention of city staff, and we actually made comment to, reached out to AEP and got that done. The farmer's market, as you can tell, is underway. The city attorney and myself are working on the legal part of it, related to title work and making sure that the city has clear title to the property, and making sure that we are doing what we need to do for the USDA so that we can get the money from them, as well as couple it with the CDBG money. Outside of that, in Empire, going forward, that is something that is scheduled. We've got a grant that is coming in, I want to say 2021. But in the interim, if we can find something that we can do before that, we will address it at that time. So again, if there's any questions relative to plans, we can provide that, but the Income Tax Oversight Committee has made a recommendation that will be coming to the City Commission for their ultimate approval. And like I said, it'll be a lot of input that'll be needed at that time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Chair recognizes Commissioner Harrelson.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the citizens for coming out and seeing your government in action on tonight. And I'd like to thank Chief McGinnis for doing a good job. I was hoping this would come soon, so it's better now than never. So, keep up the good work. And I'd like to thank Ms. Kennard for this plan. I guess you wanna know how I have Irish in me? But anyway, thank you very much. I'll tell you later. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. Developers spoke quite nicely about plans and whatnot. I mean, I don't knock that at all. But to get to it, you're gonna have to travel rough roads, right? So all I can say is, you know, do your own research, pay attention. A lot of times when they say people come back here, they actually still here. So when you're driving around locally, you look at those signs, those billboards, and some of those empty buildings with the sign plastered on it, that lets you know who's here. Also, I'd like to thank Ms. Muhammad for speaking on and encouraging people to start their own businesses. The strange thing about that is a lot of times people are scared to step out there because they don't know what available resources out there. What we best can do is let people know what we know. I shared with quite a few people about the SBA online. You can do your own business plan right there for free and then log it in there for over a year. But a lot of us are not helping everybody out. A lot of us don't know. So, not speaking on her, but a lot of people I run across, they can speak on these different things, but they're not offering the resources or the know-how for people to operate these businesses. And you gotta think, a lot of people don't have the capital. You have an option to let somebody else be a part of your business, but their means is to take your business because you're not able to pay that loan back. So pay attention, know your resources, read up like we should. I also like to know, I'd like to get a report on how Operation Mayberry is doing. And I'd like to know how much is being paid to Mother Nature on helping reduce this crime. Mr. Edwards, I totally agree with you. A lot of that hee-hawing, joking stuff need to stop. It happens quite a bit. It's not just happening to you, it don't happen here, right? But everything is funny until it lands in your own backyard. One morning, I happened to be at the college earlier than usual, and I saw a young man walking his child up to the front entrance. And it just reminded me of when I used to take my daughter to the little elementary school. And I'm like, wow, I remember those days. But what will he do when his child realizes the real world? Because you only protect people for so long. We try to create a different type of utopia for them while we try to maintain our sanity, right? And maybe take another look at that young man. And I'm like, yeah, he still has a lot to learn because he hasn't traveled that long in his life. He done took quite a few journeys, but he don't know what's really out there. He just started. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out again and just pay attention to a lot of things and really read. Because if you don't, anything could be said to you out the way, and you're gonna take it, and like Ms. Muhammad said, you're gonna forever accept those crumbs. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out on tonight. And I'd just like to say something briefly about decorum. The great thing about democracy is we'll never agree about everything, and that's fine, we're not supposed to. But there's a certain amount of decorum that we should have and a respect for the office, even if you disagree about whatever's being said or whatever is happening. There's a certain amount of decorum. When you guys are speaking up here, typically, I can only speak for me. I'm watching you, I'm listening to you. I'm not talking over you or making jokes or comments, even about what's being said. But so often, I hear and I see that from people who coming out to the meeting because you disagree with how something is being done. Democracy is, we're supposed to disagree, that's fine, but there's a certain decorum that we need to have in order to do so. And in the city, I feel like we've lost that. I had the opportunity last week to chair a meeting. I felt like I had been in a 12-round fight when I left, keeping people from taking over my meeting. Not that I want to have to use the rules for that, but I had to explicitly use the rules to keep order in the meeting. And it shouldn't be that way. People go to all other meetings and they sit in that audience and they act like they got some sense. When they come into the city of Benton Harbor, people feel like they can say anything and do anything when they walk in these chambers. And that has to stop. We cannot continue this. We have to change that. Secondly, in the city, I really appreciate the presentation on the apartments. There's a missing middle in Benton Harbor. We have focused strategically and heavily on low income and people who live below the poverty line because we're supposed to. There'll always be poor among us. But we have to find the missing middle. I know people, who, as the mayor stated, who have moved out of our community, who wants to live in our community, but cannot because they cannot find a standard housing for them that they're used to based on what their career has allowed them to achieve. We have to bring back the missing middle. $1,300 is really a low. I was actually shocked when he said that. I was thinking $1,700 to $2,000. My daughter that lives in Sterling, Virginia, trying to move downtown DC, her base rent is $2,500 for an apartment that, to me, I think is crappy. There's nothing high end about it. $2,500 a month. And she has a roommate because she can't afford to pay that on her own. So that, I would tell her about that. She'd probably move back here in a heartbeat if she could find the kind of job which in a career field that she's in. But that's a drop in the bucket, and that's really exciting to hear for people who are in that income range who can afford those apartments. So again, I appreciate everybody's opinion. It's great, I listen because it is important. We listen to you guys, but it's also a decorum that we have to have when dealing in our meetings. And lastly, I'd like to talk about the cleanup that will be happening on May the 10th and May the 11th. It is a big thing in conjunction with our police department and other people in the community who want to see this community cleaned up. It is a joint effort that we all have to undertake in order to make this place great and what it is supposed to be. And so that'll be happening on the 10th and the 11th of May. We'll be doing a big advertising blitz for this, and so get involved in those wards. So if you can't join us in cleaning up the city on that day, clean up your neighborhood in your area. Make it personal to you. So thank you all for coming out, and I really appreciate hearing from citizens in Benton Harbor because I know you care. You're here, so we know that you care. And so thank you for coming out, and please have a great and a safe rest of your evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Henderson. The chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. I appreciate the city residents for coming out and all the constituents. People have downtown residents and downtown businesses in the downtown area. It was good to see that not only will we have Prairie down there, but now we have another apartment complex down there along those same lines and doing the same thing right there on that corner, which helps bring people downtown. It makes it more attractive for business and for Main Street to be the highlight of our community. I'm grateful to know, I want to say this to this commission, not only do we need to make sure we respect each other, but we need to make sure that with the information you get is credible, because I found out some people give you some information and put you out there on a limb and saw the limb off on you and act like they never gave you the information. It just behooves you to research for yourself and listen for yourself, because you'll be set up and looked at as if you're against or counterproductive because you don't have the right information. I do appreciate the way this commission has moved forward. We've balanced budgets. We've done a lot of different things since I've been on part of this mission, and I do appreciate the police chief for stepping up for the legalized, the dumping, and making sure that people are prosecuted or taken care of for dumping. I would ask the residents that if you do see anybody illegally dumping, please take out your phone, take a picture of the license plate, and call in. It will be anonymous. Make sure you give it to the right person, because then it's not anonymous. They might give your name, address, and your phone number out. So, and also I want to thank city manager for figuring out some different things that needed to be figured out when it needed to be figured out. The truth is, the day-to-day operations are not handled by us. Most of us have a job, most of us have a career. It takes somebody to run the city of Benton Harbor, and if we do have problems with the way it's being run, then I think we need to give them an opportunity to address it. I will say that we had some historical issues with certain things, as far as customer service wise, and to hear from the city manager that he's rectifying some of the customer service issues is a step in the right direction. Hey, when I found out something, they were talking about Benton Harbor High School basketball team, how they could have won, but wasn't none of us taking the shots. Them boys had to get on the court, which I'm still yet proud of them, because they did win the state championship last year, and they went further this year than many even thought might be possible. But we got too many Monday morning quarterbacks and not enough people getting in the game. If you want to do something about the problem in Benton Harbor, it's more than just talking. You got to start walking and start changing the rights, the wrong into rights. And I appreciate everybody who comes to make Benton Harbor a better place, but I'm not going to act like the 1986 commission. I'm not going to act like the 1990 commission. When we was dealing with different issues and, miseducation, and I hate to throw this out there, read the book, The Miseducation of a Negro. You'll find out a lot that's going on. Read Willie Lynch syndrome. You'll find out a lot that's going on. It's the same behavior that you see that we cannot somehow, no matter if it's right, we can't stand together to make it happen. So I appreciate leadership, mayor, everybody. This whole commission, who all play a part in making Benton Harbor a better place. Thank you for coming out. God bless you.
You got it.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I'd like to thank my colleagues for your service, good, bad, and different, though we disagree. I do admire and respect your commitment to the city council. I reflect on Commissioner Mary Donald as I looked at a previous photo with her seat empty with a bouquet of flowers in it. And as she was seeking re-election, she went home. So I just want to remind us that tomorrow is not promised for none of us. We could have possibly taken our final vote tonight. So we just don't know, so I do respect, I do honor, and I do thank you for your service. Tomorrow we will have the State of the City address at the Benton Harbor Public Library. A meet and greet will begin at 5:30, and we will have at 6 p.m. The beginning of the address. All are invited. There will be the same setup as last year, and I want to personally invite my colleagues, stakeholders, and residents as we attempt to deliver the state of the city. I'd like to thank Cornerstone Alliance for remaining and believing in the city of Benton Harbor. Others have left, not to throw any shade at Cornerstone Chamber of Cornerstone Chamber, Chamber of Commerce, but they relocated in St. Joe. But you all decided to move from the old bank on Main Street, and you started with renovations right away. So thank you for the risk, and I look forward to seeing the project blossom. I'd like to congratulate all the appointees. As I reflect, I was appointed to the City of Benton Harbor Planning Commission in 2003, which was my first brush with politics, excuse me. And it has led me to this point with the heart to serve. So I want to thank and congratulate all of those who have decided to step up to serve in the best interests of the city of Benton Harbor. Mr. Wilkins, thank you. I've seen some pray and leave, but if you pray to stay. So I appreciate you watching your government in action. Commissioner Don Meeks as well and his wife, although you sit on the township side of the aisle, you also...
You know where my heart's at.
I know where your heart is at. Lastly, I'd like to thank my wife, who is not a single mother, let me say. Unless there's some papers I'm not being certified male that I don't know about. But on that note, God helps those who help themselves. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Louise, don't.
Yes.
Mr. Elton. I called you.
I know. I gotta get